Go for it.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Launch Minnesota Friday Forum. We host these every month on the fourth Friday. And I'm really excited about this week's topic. We are talking about artificial intelligence, which is often one of the most buzzworthy items in tech. There's a lot of potential with AI, to improve technology that already exists. But then, of course, there's a lot of headlines, regarding the Terminator and the end times and all that. Because of all the exciting stuff with AI, we thought it'd be a great time to talk to some businesses in the community that are utilizing this technology to improve the lives of their customers and their organization. So I'm very excited to be joined this morning by Jamie, Michelle, and Michael. And I will let each of you introduce yourselves, your organization, and then tell us a little bit about how you are utilizing artificial intelligence. Jamie, you want to start us off?
Absolutely. So thank you first for the invitation. It's great to be back speaking to a great group of Minnesotans. My job kind of takes me around the world now virtually, so happy to be here. So I'm Jamie Sunsbach. I'm the partner relationship manager and lead the program at Mayo Clinic called Mayo Clinic Platform Accelerate. We're a 20-week virtual accelerator that really focuses on AI health tech companies from around the world and gives them access to our Mayo Clinic Cloud, which really contains this vast de-identified clinical data sets. And it's just a wonderful program, really excited about what AI can do, and especially in the healthcare space. So just really glad to be here.
Great, thanks. Michael?
Hello, I'm Michael Ratajczak. I am the program director for many programs at St. Mary's University of Minnesota, headquartered right down in Winona, but also office in Minneapolis. We have programs in business intelligence, which I'm responsible for, but also artificial intelligence. I'm also working on my fourth and hopefully final year of a PhD in artificial intelligence, which is directly related to adopting the technology in companies. So this ChatGPT generative AI stuff couldn't have just come at a better time for me. Just fell into my lap as I'm wrapping up my work. So
Yeah.
that is a perfect environment for me. So,
Well, super excited to hear you talk about ChatGPT and all these other aspects of AI. So thank you so much for joining us.
thank you.
Yeah. Michelle?
Hi, I'm Michelle Tran-Marins. I'm the founder and CEO of We Sparkle. We are a social enterprise dedicated to building a stronger and more inclusive economy by equipping underestimated entrepreneurs with the AI power tools that they need to succeed. I did my first AI project about 7-8 years ago when I was leading digital at the American Academy of Neurology. And the neurologist wanted to we built out a semantic search engine that delivered personalized search results based on what people typed into the search bar, whether they're a clinical practitioner, an academic, or a patient. And so started in that way, and then now more focused on helping small businesses access AI technology.
Awesome. Thanks. Now let's start out with, like I said, there's a lot of misconceptions about AI, what it can do, and how it's utilized by tech companies. So let's talk about that. What are some of the most common misconceptions with AI? Michelle, you want to start us off?
I hear a lot. I'm actually doing a program right now at Oxford called AI for Business. And I think one of the things that we hear the most are people being really afraid of AI. It's going to take over our jobs. People have images of, science fiction movies. And I think that while it can accomplish a lot of jobs that humans are doing, I think it can also really enhance what people are doing and allow them to work on more high value tasks, as opposed to some of those tedious, repetitive tasks that a lot of people don't enjoy doing anyway.
Right. Yeah. Michael?
I think one of them is that once you have it, it does everything for you, and it'll make your company super successful instantly without any actual work involved. And so that's a big misconception. I think that's one of the main ones that I would pick up that hasn't been said.
Yeah. And Jamie, what do you think?
I totally agree with what I'm hearing, of course. But I think the one that I'm starting to understand is kind of new to this field is that the misconception is anyone fully understands what the future holds for AI because they really don't. I'm not someone to do like baseball analogies, but I think where we are with AI is we're at the first at bat, kind of first inning of the first game of the season with AI. And we're just stumbling through it right now and trying to find our footing. And I've seen, different technologies jump in, whether it's the PC, and yeah, I'm that old, the PC, the internet, some of these breakthrough technologies, it's there, but we're really at the beginning. And it's really up to many of the people on this call to help us shape that future.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, it's crazy to think that we are still that early with artificial intelligence. There's still so much that we can do and so much we can learn. How has AI impacted the work you do, and what challenges have you faced while implementing this technology? Jamie, what do you think?
So in a way, it got me a pretty cool job here at Mayo. So I think that's how it's impacted me personally. But I think specifically more to the topic of AI and healthcare, it's really a big, hairy problem, right? Healthcare. And it's a problem that really impacts all of us, every living being on the planet, right? And so I think there's an opportunity to embrace AI into healthcare. Obviously, that's something that Mayo is very focused on. But at the same time, we realize it's healthcare. So we have to take a lot of really careful steps to ensure that what we're creating on the AI space for healthcare is safe, ethical, transparent, and protects our patients first and foremost, but also our clinicians and staff. So we can't move at the speed of other areas of AI. You see, whether it's OpenAI or other entities that are really rushing forward, you're seeing innovations happening almost on a daily basis now. We have to take a more considered approach, slow down a little bit, and really start to think of what will best impact our patients in the future.
Right. Cool. Michelle?
I completely agree. I think that there are a lot of ethical questions that come up when discussing AI. And I think that we as humans really need to come together and discuss those issues on how we manage it going forward. Because there is sort of a black box sometimes with more, as we get more towards general AI, of what information is it being fed? Is that information biased? And then how does that affect the results or the outcomes that we see? And then who can make decisions based on that information? And continually to supervise the learning that AI is doing so that we are reiterating the things that we value in society and the ethics and values that we hold. These are very challenging questions because every single person and individual and culture, country probably has different views when it comes to ethics and the things that they want to see. So I think those are going to be huge challenges. I think AI is probably going to be the next big revolution in technology. And I just want to make sure that we use this tool for good as much as possible. And we are able to manage when there are bad actors or bad information that is being put into the system.
Yeah. Michelle, I know you work with a lot of small businesses. Were they all are they, in your experience, have they reacted to, embracing artificial intelligence tool? Are they like, wow, that's awesome that I can utilize that technology? Or are they like, should I incorporate this into my business? How do people usually react?
Well, about 5 years ago when I started, people were confused. Like, what are you talking about? What is an AI assistant? It's a little bit easier to talk about it. I would say that people are more receptive now in terms of small business owners because ChatGPT has created a lot of awareness about the power of AI and its ability, to communicate effectively with people. I think we still have a ways to go. I think there's still a lot of fear, and I completely understand that. But I don't want fear to prevent people from accessing this technology because, as we've seen in history, those who have the tools, the resources, the access to, those resources and tools often have more economic power. And so I
Mhm.
want to make sure that even small business owners who maybe don't have a lot of resources are able to access this technology to help improve their lives.
Yeah, definitely. Um, and Michael, what are some of the challenges? I mean, I know you've experimented with a lot of different kinds of AI implementation. What are some of the challenges that often come with it or that you've experienced?
So when I think about this question, I think about the Clint Eastwood movie, Good, Bad, and the Ugly. What's the good, healthy use? What's the bad, and what's the ugly stuff that we're not going to be able to prevent? Those are going to be bad actors, with any technology. But it's already uprooting how we teach and how people learn, and using it as a tool. Everybody goes to the whole plagiarism thing immediately when they think about it, but I'm like, hold on here. That's the bad, but how can we see this as a tool, not just for good, which good, but literally good, but to help people learn, customized learning plans. If people are struggling to understand examples or need bite-sized scenarios rather than a big scenario. But I also think that it's going to help with internal HR training programs. Eventually, this will get in there where that stuff will get possibly redesigned or used as a tool to better understand company policies and things like that. That, as Jamie was saying, we're in the first inning of the first game of the season. I'm not saying that's going to happen tomorrow with the HR stuff, but why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't it? So
Sure. Yeah, very cool. Michael, since you're already speaking, maybe you could give us an overview of Chat GPT for people who aren't familiar with it and talk about what some of the potential there and what excites you about it.
okay, so the example that I have for this is ChatGPT is a librarian that pulls books for you. It can summarize those books for you and then write documents for you. So it can retrieve information, categorize it, and then present it for you for consumption. On an amazing number of topics. It can create fictitious data sets to teach something. It can give you examples. So I don't want to nerd out here, but I teach some high-level math stuff related to AI. And sometimes you need that example that a kindergartner can understand. And so you can ask ChatGPT to break it down for you in a way that you can present it to somebody who's having difficulty with a super challenging topic. So, but I do think it's going to change education. It's going to, in many ways, and we have to be ready. And we're talking about it, like I was saying earlier, I just finished talking to my board of trustees this morning for the third time and working through all that as well.
Mhm. What sort of changes or how do you think it's going to impact, a few ways that it's going to impact learning? Because of course, every headline that I see is like, oh, kids are getting dumber because they're just going to be typing their answers into the robot. What's your take on that?
So I haven't quite figured out the online solution yet, other than, so I teach face-to-face and I also run online programs too. And the face-to-face is easy. We'd go to a flipped environment, and I don't know if anybody's heard of the flipped environment, but basically use ChatGPT all you want to study up on the material, but you come to class ready to work. The homework isn't homework anymore, it's classwork. So you come to class to work and to apply. So throwing out the lectures, throwing out the bullet pointed lecture, read off the slide PowerPoint style, putting more onus on the students to come to class prepared. That's one way. Or even come to class to write the papers, write your abstract, write your business plan in class with us. Seek out questions. I'm going to come and review every 5 minutes, kind of like what we do for conferences, face-to-face conferences and workshops. And, that kind of environment is what I'm working through right now for planning.
Okay.
Online, live presentations, not submitted PowerPoint slides or papers, live, question and answer periods for assessment.
Got it. That's really interesting. I like that. Jamie, let's flip it and let's talk about AI in healthcare. What are some of the most promising applications that you've seen, in your position with Mayo?
Oh my gosh. I've been keeping count of like how many companies I've talked to in the last almost 2 years. And I think we're at like 267 companies around the world that are full of brilliant, amazing people, much smarter than I am. So I've first, I think just quickly, I've been around a lot of tech industry verticals in my life, and I'll say that I have never seen as diverse a group as the founders of these AI health tech companies around the world. And I think it just really speaks to the fact that healthcare affects us all. And these problems affect everyone. And you're seeing people not just in, the usual geographic centers in the US who are coming up with these solutions, but you're seeing people from all over the world. So that's been really something that is really excited me about working with these companies for sure.
Mhm.
As we know, like I said, healthcare is a big, hairy problem. So there's lots of problems and solutions to be had. And I think AI is a huge part of that. Mayo is really looking across the entire gambit of healthcare, right? They're trying to figure out, what solutions can we work on internally with our brilliant innovators to create those solutions in-house, but also looking to industry partners on the outside who may have some great solutions. And the idea of Mayo Clinic platform is more about that we're providing access to a wealth of data, because what we're hearing from all of these people is they need access to raw healthcare data to really train their models, to validate their models. And so that's what we're really trying to focus in on. So it's not just a pipeline for solutions to Mayo, but it's actually the opportunity to access perhaps some data sets that people wouldn't normally be able to access in order to make their own products better, go back into the market and help people. And that's really, what we're all about here at Mayo. So that's the Mayo answer, right? We're interested in everything. For me personally, I really love technologies that are in two areas. And I think this is just because of my background. So I love AI that supports hardware and device. That's something that more and more when we think about, what does healthcare look like in the future? It's going to be a lot more at home than it is going to be to go to clinics. That's just the reality. And I think we're finally getting there with the technology to support that. So that's the second part I'm really excited about, is just what can we do, with the Internet of Things, with AI, with great devices to be able to care for people where they are versus always having to send them to a clinic. So those are kind of the two things, this AI for hardware and device and what it looks like for a medical future in the home that I personally am just really excited about.
Can you think of any like specific companies or technology applications that the audience might be interested in?
Um, there are some, I suppose I could pull from our cohort of companies and give them some free PR. So one of our companies is called Dynocardia, and they're replacing something that everybody knows, the blood pressure cuff. And they've come up with a technological solution that's really a bracelet almost that you wear around your wrist. We get very small data points in the clinic, right? When you come for a visit, you get one data point, and then you go away for three months, and then you go check your blood pressure again. That's another data point. A lot's happened in that time. So a lot of these real-time devices that can continuously be on you and monitoring you and adding to that wealth of data, I think is so critical for the future of really innovative, informed healthcare. So that's one of the examples. I have a lot more, but I definitely don't want to monopolize the time talking about all these great companies and their solutions.
Sure. Yeah. Cool. Well, Michelle, we touched on this a little bit already, but WeSparkle is used by a lot of different types of businesses. How can AI benefit businesses that aren't just tech companies?
Well, in a lot of our research that we did when we first started, we found that small business owners were wasting about 68% of their time just on repetitive administrative tasks. So things like going back and forth over email or over phone to schedule an appointment, answering the same questions over and over again. And so our AI assistant really helps to accomplish those tasks for them. So it's customized for their particular business. It can answer questions like, where are you located? What are your hours? Are you open, for the holiday? Things like that, they may not have the time or want to be answering those kinds of things, and doing that scheduling for them. So there's a lot of potential for it to pick up repetitive sort of administrative tasks that are difficult for them to do, or have the time to do. I think there are challenges though, as well. And, you were mentioning what are some of the challenges. I think right now, because a lot of AI hasn't been integrated as much into the Internet of Things or hardware, a lot of the service businesses are still, I think, faring well, but I think a lot of creative entrepreneurs are definitely very worried in terms of people who are painters or who are graphic designers, musicians. And so they're really watching out for how AI develops, and we want to make sure that they are compensated fairly for what they contribute and what the AI learns from their products, from their the art that they create, and how is it incorporated and then delivered, and are they compensated for that, contributing to that.
Yeah, definitely. So anyone feel free to jump in on this one, but AI is constantly innovating and improving. How do you stay on top of these changes and keep up with the technology or your customer needs?
It's tough. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. It's tough.
We gave ourselves the same amount of time to pause. So for me personally, this has been a huge learning curve for me. This was not my area of expertise when I joined this program. There's a lot of internal education and resources that Mayo provides to help us understand. But quite honestly, I just try to read a lot, listen to a lot of great podcasts, talk with some of our data scientists to really start to understand what the current state is and what the future could be. And again, it's hard to stay on top of it because it's amazing. I think there was a period about a month ago where I swear, whether it was an announcement from Microsoft, Google, OpenAI, like it was happening rapid fire in the space of like 4 or 5 days. And it was so hard to keep on top of all that stuff. So definitely I need an AI to help me curate what I need to learn. That would be fantastic. And I've been trying some of those tools and it's been great. So it's a wealth of resources, but you have to stay on top of it. It is very much like, I come from a scientific background. It's keeping up on the research, but it's now keeping up with these research that's at the speed of light. It is very difficult, but we're trying our best here at Mayo for sure.
Right. Yeah. Of course, it's not my every day, but it's just an interest that I have, and it's like as soon as I feel like I understand like the latest thing that happened, there's like 2 more things that have piled on top of it. So, Michael, I mean, of course, you're in academia. There's a ton of stuff to stay on top of. How do you sort of do that?
Well, right now, because of my PhD work, it's kind of in my blood, at least for a while.
Sure.
But yeah, it is tough every day. I mean, you have to play with it. We've talked a little bit about ChatGPT, artificial intelligence in general, but there's many more tools out there.
Mhm.
There's art tools, concept art, Midjourney, Mage, Night Cafe. There's many of them. Not to mention a lot of our software that we've been using, like Adobe products, are now integrating that stuff, and they're catching up, and they're going right into adding that stuff into the applications. And so for me, my client, if you will, are the students. I need to make sure they have the best education possible. And in my field, I'm used to it. I've been here 10 years. Business intelligence, analytics, data science has always been changing, a moving target. But especially now, as Jamie said, it's at the speed of light, if not faster. And you have to find what's relevant, what's been thought through, because there's so many people out there with these NLP, natural language processing, algorithms that they can come up with something, and you don't know if it's ethical or their guardrails, what kind of prompts are you allowed, things like that. So it's tough, but I suspect I spend at least 2 hours a day, if not more. But that's my environment, right? College professor.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. Michelle, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you look at Google Trends actually, and you see, people talking about AI, it just went all of a sudden. And so there's a lot more information. And I like Jamie's idea of, using some of those tools to aggregate, what are some good resources to look at. I follow, some different I use Discord, to follow Midjourney and things like that. There's lots of podcasts, lots of articles. I'm doing an executive degree program in AI for business right now, which has been really helpful because I'm talking with other people in the AI space from around the world. And that's been helpful because we share articles that are interesting and help filter out some of the noise. But there is a lot, busy as an entrepreneur with serving our customers, but try to keep up to date just on what the latest news is as much as I can.
Cool. Well, here is my last question for our panelists, and I say that just to give our audience some time to think here. If you have questions, drop them in the chat. We have, of course, an awesome group of people assembled here to answer anything that you got on your mind. But what advice, panelists, do you have for startups looking to incorporate AI into their products or services? How do you know if it's a good fit? Michelle, I can see you. So yeah, you want to start us off? Thanks.
I would say start simply. We do very, very narrow AI. We put in a lot of guardrails because we're dealing with people who this is their livelihood. And so, if things go awry, it could mean, their income for that week, that month. So it's really important to start as simply as you can, and then you can grow from there, like as you learn. And, I wouldn't be afraid to try and start using these tools, but definitely start simple. Don't try to bite off too much at once, because it can quickly become something where you aren't sure exactly, you aren't able to trace back what you've done. And so I would just start really simple and go from there.
Makes sense.
I think for me, it's the question is kind of like, how do you know if it's going to be a fit? I think it's going to have to be a fit somewhere in your business in order to stay competitive in the future. So it's not really going to be that optional. It's just it's like the internet. I used to sit there to people like, why would I ever need a website? That's silly. We have the yellow pages. And it's like, we all know where that went. So I think we're headed that way with AI. There'll be some component to your business that you utilize, whether it's, marketing copy, being able to use ChatGPT and DALL-E and things to be able to do that quickly. And it saves you money as a business, right? So that's the first point. I think the other point is you have to really ensure that you have the right technical talent on your team. As we're evaluating companies for our program, we really, like Techstars and others will always say team, totally believe that. We believe the same thing, but we kind of break that out and say, let's look at your technical team a little bit, because I think that's and of course it's really tough to find those right people, right? It's super in demand. Salaries are really high, but I think having the right people in place makes sense. And then the last thing I'll say is, the thing I've been throwing out there, and I don't know if it's catching on or not, but right now, when you provide a solution, you say, I have an AI-driven solution that's going to help you basically, save money. And if your customer is pretty tech savvy and they're like, okay, that makes sense. But I think as the months and years go on, what I call the AI IQ of the world is going to go up, and they're going to start asking more questions than just, is this going to save me money? That's always important, right? But they're going to start asking, explain your training set. How much data did you use? Where did you get your data from? What are the 5 features you incorporated into your model? Can you provide transparency artifacts to show what you were doing when you were building your model? And that's something that we care a lot about at Mayo, and we're trying to lead the way on, is essentially what our president, Dr. John Halamka, calls a nutrition label for AI. So like we have a nutrition label on food, we want to provide this transparency into every medical algorithm so that a clinician or a patient can actually review, all of those things I just talked about, and that we're able to make an informed decision. If you trained your data set on a bunch of people from Minnesota, can you apply that decision-making AI algorithm in sub-Saharan Africa? That's something you should think about. And so we're really pushing for that transparency. And I think that transparency needs to go everywhere with AI, my personal opinion. I think, Microsoft and Bing are doing a pretty good job, as good as they can do right now. If you've used Bing's integration of ChatGPT, you're seeing where it's pulling from. You're seeing some of that stuff. It's providing those footnotes. That's a good step in the right direction, I think, to help people really take a step back and realize just because you put something in and something comes out, it's not necessarily true.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, especially that last point, I work a lot with obviously validating whether ChatGPT responses are accurate and references, and you find inconsistencies sometimes, but also the way that you ask ChatGPT the question or the prompt can give you a very different response. So my advice to startups, and this comes from, I spoke to a Chamber of Commerce last week, and then of course Red Wing Ignite on Monday, and there was somebody in the audience who kept saying, I don't get it. I don't know why I would want to use this. Basically, and you're trying to explain and explain, and everybody else in the room was like, they're already using it to some degree or have dabbled in it. And that's really my advice is you gotta go play. You gotta play. You gotta have a fundamental knowledge before you can think about how it can be used operationally and strategically. So go play with Midjourney or DALL-E, use up your free credits, design something, start learning what a prompt is. It's free. You might not get the fastest speed because you're not paying for, a subscription or something, but just you have to go play, to go probably the quickest way. Don't read about it. Don't read bullet points and lectures, and go play. So.
Yeah, love that. I mean, do come to awesome things like Friday Forum and we talk about it, can't skip over that. But no, I totally agree.
Yeah,
I've had
sorry.
just,
Yep.
like you said, using it as an assistant or just talking to it. I asked, one of the first questions I asked it was, why are Minnesotans regarded as seeming so nice? And it actually came up with a really interesting answer. So, I mean, it is just a wealth of knowledge for research and silly questions. So yeah, great advice. Go play with it. Okay, we got a couple good questions in the chat. Beth says, I'm a business consultant focused on innovation and transformation using human-centered design. And we just opened for business within the last week. I can see AI playing a major role in how we advise our clients. How does someone like me, focused on human-centered design and qualitative research, stay abreast of how companies can use AI so I can appropriately advise our clients? Feel free to anyone jump in. What do you think?
I think we said it a few times, and Michael said it the best, right? I think you just have to dip your toe in and start playing, right? You got to start. It's funny. So I didn't know where to start, and I thought I'd eat my own dog food. So I asked ChatGPT where to start, and it actually was really good at some, helping me brainstorm, like, here's some things you could start to look at. So that would be my pitch, is just start, go to ChatGPT or Bing's instance and just start asking questions. And I think you start to get the gist of it. Otherwise, I highly recommend, there's some pretty good sources on YouTube that are really coming up with some great sort of quick courses on prompt engineering and things like that are really, really interesting. And then there's some deeper dives on what is AI. AI is a lot more than just, ChatGPT. So there's some courses there, and all of that's free. So I think it's just a good way to start.
I would say I have a human-centered design background, and I think that one way that you can start to explore and play around with it is thinking about different personas. I mean, it is trained on data that was generated by lots of different humans. And so it can, give you a starting point when you start playing and exploring with it. Of course, taking what you can from that, and then you obviously learn a lot with the other tools that you would use in human-centered design. So I think combining what you learn from exploring with ChatGPT or DALL-E or Midjourney or whatever tools you want to play around with, but then obviously incorporating that and integrating that with the work that you do and the other methodologies and tools for human-centered design.
Great, thanks. Here's a good question from Brandon. Do you see a role for the public sector in supporting beneficial impact and mitigating harm of this emerging tech?
Yes.
Yeah.
I also, my first career was in federal government. Oh my goodness, we need so much work done when it comes to developing policies and frameworks on how to manage this technology. I mean, it's already difficult. I feel like we're already behind. Even with the AI winter, you would think that we would have been preparing more, but I think everyone has been hit by the storm, and there's so much work that we need to do to figure out how can we manage this best. And I know there's different policy ideas that have been floated around there in terms of, having a pause or I don't know. I think these conversations are really important to get a sense of the challenges that constituents are having and or potential issues they may have. And I think we need to come together as communities to figure out what types of, legislation, regulations that we need to put in place to make sure that people continue staying safe and healthy.
Yeah, I totally agree with that for sure. And we're laser focused on FDA, obviously, right now, and there's a lot of discussions going on, right, about how we do this, and we have an internal regulatory affairs group at Mayo who's been helping provide a wealth of information to us on software as a medical device, which is kind of the vertical in which a lot of our technologies fall under. So there is a lot of discussions at this point. The only thing I kind of fear about that is overregulation, because there's got to be a fine balance there. Because if the pendulum swings too far, that's going to cut, this sort of innovation potential here in the U.S. and it could allow, other countries to really, maybe that don't have those guardrails or those very strict guardrails to out innovate us. So I think there has to be a happy medium there, but totally agree. We need some guardrails, we need some regulations, but we want to make sure that they don't overreach to really stifle the innovation, because we're so good at innovation here in this country. And we want to make sure that we get a chance to really push forward with this, but do it safely and ethically.
And I would add, from my lens, in February, I submitted a National Science Foundation grant to address pretty much that. The good, like I said before, the good, bad, and the ugly. And now I'm a finalist, and I'll know at the end of May if the public sector will support exactly as the question says. So to do this kind of work, but I think we need that kind of support to investigate and to learn, so that we don't overregulate, but we, the Goldilocks paradox, and work through. There's sociology, psychology. There's so many ways that this can impact people. I was just talking to the board about neurology of all things. How our brains are going to be wired now by getting information instantly without having to learn to search for it and assess the quality, perhaps by having technology give us a rating of itself. So lot of opportunities and things to think about out there.
I would also just quickly say that, this wouldn't be a talk, Neela, if I didn't say how awesome the state of Minnesota is and how there could be a real opportunity, because we are a hub for healthcare, right? It is what we do very exceptionally well. And it would be cool if we could find some way to really focus some of those dollars or efforts on really accelerating forward an AI health tech ecosystem here in Minnesota, I think it would be phenomenal. So that's my plug for supporting the great AI work that's going on here, but taking it to the next level as well.
Awesome. All right. Another question from a business. I'm currently consulting on a retail startup. Do companies need an AI policy for what's acceptable use? Not sharing proprietary data, etc.
One thing I think about is marketing materials. If you're going to use programs like Midjourney or DALL-E to do work, is it already copywritten? There's a danger of that kind of stuff. If you're going to have ChatGPT and those kind of tools write your marketing copy for you, don't let it go on autopilot because there could be inaccuracies in there. I've heard of people using it to write product descriptions, creative ones, but then at the same time, oops, a well-known term, branded term got into your description. And if you're on autopilot. So I don't know how that works with policy, but just some things that people need to be aware of when they're using the tools.
Yeah, and I would agree. I think coming up with a policy would be a great idea. I know a lot of companies are making sure that their employees aren't putting any code, into, ChatGPT or otherwise, because obviously that's your proprietary data, and once it's in there, who knows where it goes. And so definitely putting in policies in place, allowing people to explore and things, but also protecting your information as a company.
I would also say that I don't know, it's not really a joke, but someone that said the other day, who wins first in the AI future? And the response was law firms and insurance companies. And they're going to make the first dollars in because this is blue ocean, right? It's a chance to really define from a legal standpoint and an insurance standpoint how this happens. We work with companies who come into our program and we want them to carry cybersecurity insurance. To a lot of people, they're like, even startups in the space are like, what's that? So there's a great deal of products that in jurisprudence that's going to have to be worked through. But I think ultimately some of that stuff not only will fall on the business side, but probably will be wrapped up in some sort of insurance vehicle as well.
Awesome. Another question from a business. Summer wants to know, what are the best social media marketing free AI tools? I see Charlie is a paid one. Is there a free one? Is there a way AI can, and then she also wonders, is there a way that AI can help do research on news articles and review social media platforms for information?
There is, free version of ChatGPT. I think most of the people I know are just using the free version to, create some copy. And like Michael said, of course, you need to obviously check it to make sure that it's accurate and customize it for yourself. It'll generate a starting point, but then you'll need to take it from there. I know people have used it to pull together literature reviews, but obviously checking those articles and making sure that they're good sources. So most of the people I know are using just the free ChatGPT to do a lot of kind of that marketing copy and getting a starting point for that.
I think the other thing to realize is if you're using ChatGPT, it has no knowledge past, what was it, like October 2021 or something, like fall of 2021 or something like that. So if you're looking for something current or up to date, it's not going to know. It's nice enough to tell you that, right? It's like, sorry, I don't know this. But the information could be dated as well. And, I think, if we point to a technology that's actually revolutionized human understanding, it's Wikipedia, right? It's amazing that that's constantly being updated by essentially volunteers. And so you've got to be careful to know when you're using anything, what, again, are the boundaries, and definitely, ChatGPT doesn't really know a lot. about current events. Now, Bing, on the other hand, I feel like a Microsoft person today, which I never am. But they have allowed Bing to crawl or Bing Chat to crawl the web, and so that you can get more specialized kind of current information. But in my opinion, it's a little bit cut down. So that's what I would say there. And then the other thing is, a lot of these solutions, more on the marketing side or things like that, that use their own AI, they're really expensive. So you've got to weigh that cost as well. Is that going to fit your budget as well? So you can kind of roll your own, but you can also go with these solutions. They're, of course, just taking advantage of the market right now and are very, in my opinion, very costly, but they do a great job.
Great. Any more questions from the audience?
I had one, maybe just a half question, half comment, just going back to the discussion at the top of the hour. We're launching our own AI platform in the next month, and the core of it was built from existing modules that are out there, and we created our own AI platform. We do use ChatGPT as a kind of a backstop. So if we can't figure out within our own structure, it moves in to chat. What's been interesting, when we started our development, ChatGPT didn't even exist in the public domain. And things have moved so rapidly that even now the early architecture builds that we did, they could be done today much faster, much easier at a much lower price point. And so I think for me as an entrepreneur, looking at the overall landscape and trying to figure out where do you grab onto and when and what platform and what backbone is an interesting question. I agree with you. There's a lot of folks doing work out there. They're making a lot of money at the moment. It doesn't mean that they're all good at the moment. And so anyway, I don't know if there's a perfect answer there, but it's hard as an entrepreneur to figure out when do you latch on and how into this very quickly moving ecosystem.
Yeah, this is the classic timing thing, right? In entrepreneurship.
Exactly.
And you've kind of started during this sort of seismic shift to this new thing. And it's rough, but I think the good part of that is you have that AI IQ already, right? You can assess these things a lot better than, a couple of people in a garage who just over a couple of beers figured out, hey, we should do this. So I think that's a huge advantage for you. I mean, I could tell you that internally here at Mayo for our program, we saw a wealth of AI solutions that were really, really good. In the last, I would say 2 months, everyone that submits is all based on LLMs. They're the exact same company over and over and over. And
Yeah.
it's like everybody's shifted there. So I think that's the other thing is if everybody's shifting to sort of these summarization, large language model things, you can also stand out by being a bit different as well.
Somebody smarter than me once said that AI is a little bit like electricity. That electricity can certainly kill you if you just grab two ends of a 220 coming out the end, and that's scary, but it certainly works really well washing your dishes. And I think we're going to find AI is kind of the same way. There's certain areas where it's quite dangerous and we need to be sensitive to it. If it's trying to figure out how to go find the shirt that you ordered on Amazon lost in Toledo somewhere, then there's, highly valuable, not very exciting, but highly valuable. And so it's a little bit like electricity, just figuring out where we can find the best value and appropriately applying that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, it's probably, there's a lot of buzz right now about AI, and there will continue to be new technologies that come out. But I think, obviously you have your niche, you have your expertise in knowing your customer well. And I think trust is actually the biggest thing to build because, yes, different people may be using your some of the technology that you're using, but they might not have trust built with your particular target customer. And so I think those are the things that really leverage that give you an advantage over others.
It's a great point, Michelle. I agree. The other one I thought was interesting, and we've been talking a lot about ChatGPT, is AI has been around for a long time, and ChatGPT just helped bring it to life because the linguistic skills are so amazing that it really makes it sound more intelligent than it is. And I actually think that the broader discussion we're having, when you dig into it, you realize that not everything that ChatGPT tells you is right. It's like talking to somebody that just can speak beautifully, but you realize that they on the other side actually don't know what they're talking about. I think in Texas, they call that big hat, no cattle. And we realize that sometimes ChatGPT is a little bit like that. And so as long as we recognize and teach people, just like Google, everything you read on the internet is not true. And ChatGPT is just sucking up all of this data, good data, bad data, mixed data, and recognize that everybody's trying to make it better, but it's not perfect, as we all know. Garbage in, garbage out, right?
Good comments. Thanks, Michael. Anyone else have any last minute questions or comments for our wonderful panelists today?
I just have one comment to what Brandon was asking, just
Yeah.
to add about the public sector. I think, with other technologies in the past, people have been able to come together. I mean, think about the aviation industry. When planes were invented, there's a lot of, public safety concerns around that. But people internationally came together to standardize a lot of that. And I think it is possible with AI. It's obviously a bit more tricky, but I think it is possible for us to do that. And I think it's having these kinds of conversations that are really important to move that ball forward.
Wonderful. Thanks, Michelle.
Yeah, Michelle, thanks for those comments. I'm super excited about a lot of this AI technology, but I think like the plane analogy and the FAA is a really good analogy. And we've probably all listened to some of the podcasts that report on 50% of AI researchers think that there's a 10% chance that AI is going to kill us all. Maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but if the pilot told you that that's the odds of the plane crashing, you'd be a little bit cautious about getting on that plane. So I love what Jamie said about an AI nutrition label, and also this idea of raising people's AI IQ, and what Michael said about, you got to play with this stuff. Like I've talked to friends and they just get this blank look on their face when I try to talk to them about it. Then they start playing with it, and now they're texting me left and right like, oh my God. So I appreciate those comments. So yeah.
I think you're also going to see, I've seen some early previews of what Microsoft's doing with Office. And again, why am I the Microsoft guy today? We have no, I should probably have some disclaimer there, but whatever. So, I'm excited as someone who lives now as a Mayo employee in Outlook, and all the stuff that we're doing. I mean, to be able to go through and to, just save me time by, recommending the right emails, things like that, writing them before I even can think about it. I think there's a lot of benefit there. But it just does come down to, you can't believe everything you see on a screen, and you have to check it, and you have to make sure it's right. And it's, you can't be super lazy. You can't link these things together like an if this, then that, and be, Jamie's ChatGPT is just sending out stuff. So without my knowledge, so there's got to be a level of oversight. And so really excited though, that there's so much coming and there's so much exciting, but we've got to be super cautious as we go.
Awesome. Last call, questions, comments, words of wisdom. Okay. Well, thank you everyone so much for attending our Friday forum, and thank you especially to our panelists who lended their time and knowledge. We're very, very grateful for your expertise. Again, we host these on the fourth Friday of every month, so be sure to come back in May. Always a different topic, always a good conversation. So thank you again, everyone, and have a wonderful Friday.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye all.
Thanks.